everybody, we're back.
Hi, Kristen.
Yay.
What are we talking about today?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So we're talking, it's a little bit heavier topic than just buying your first house. We have sort of specialized in this, and we wanted to cover this for our people who are separating and getting divorced, and why you really need someone who specializes in helping divorcing couples manage to sell their property.
Right.
At the right price, on their timeline.
Yeah.
Right?
So because it's already a stressful situation, right? Or time in their lives, so we want to make it as less complicated as possible.
That's right. So we're sort of, if you think of us, a neutral party of it, and we, we're going to walk through some things on why it's really important that you need someone with experience. You might think, well, just any agent can help me sell my house, but divorcing couples have unique situations. So for instance, the very first thing when you think about divorcing couples is they have this asset that most likely they're dividing up. Right? And so what are the financials of that? How's that going to look?
How does that look? Yeah.
And most couples will have some sort of negotiated transaction in place, either through an MSA or through their attorney or something else that says these steps need to be followed. Once we understand that, then we can help follow that along. Right? And we've done that in multiple transactions.
So when do you think is the timing, or when should they interview for this agent?
So that's a really good point. So I think one of the things that we've noticed is as they're decided to separate and they're going through that MSA or talking to their attorneys, you want to get an agent on your side. And we've done this in multiple cases where we've come in and we're like, okay, we'll help you with all of this. The agreement gets written, and then we start the process of selling the house. So probably right after you sort of make a decision that you are separating and you are actually selling the house, we would come in. And I think one of the things that's really helpful with somebody who does sort of specialize in this or has a lot of experience doing this is that, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the property to make sure that the property's best interest is served. And I think that sometimes gets lost when you have an emotional divorce situation, whether or not it's somewhat amicable or it's very contentious, whatever is going on there. Our goal is to make sure that the property is sold in the way that it was agreed to, so that both parties at the end can walk away with what they were promised. Right, essentially. You want to talk about why it's so great to work with a team like us and have two people who sort of can help a divorcing couple.
Yeah, so by having the two of us, right, so when we go interview the couple, we always say, if you guys decide that you guys don't want to be, communicate, right, we can split up. Or Kristen will talk to the seller, the husband, and I would talk to the wife or vice versa. And we keep that communication channel between all four of us until we come to an agreement on what the steps are needed in order to get this home on the market.
So everybody has the same communication, but sometimes couples don't want to be in the same room or on the same thing, but we want to make sure that everything is communicated equally.
Correct.
So because Jenny and I are a team, we can split that up. So I can take one partner, she can take the other partner, but we are under the umbrella of one agency working for that property.
Working for the property,
So that is, something just to keep in mind when you're going through this process. So I think one of the things that, we've seen with our divorcing couples is who does what when. Right? So who pays for, some of the inspection items, or who has to do the showings, or who approves the showings, right? Whether or not you're living in the property together, which
or already separated.
Right. We've had people living in the property together who are divorcing. And then we've also had one party living in the property, right, while the other person has moved out. But how do you coordinate that? That's something that you and I would make sure that whatever's agreed to, we sort of follow. Right? We want to make sure.
And even if one party doesn't live in that house, we always communicate to that person either way, just to show them the activity, what's happening with the house,
That's right.
What showings are coming in. What appointments.
Right, because you still own the house together. So even though the property is going to be sold and the assets are, the assets going to be, divided up, however it's talked about, if you're not physically living in the house, we still want you to know what's going on with the house. And that's our job. And we take that very seriously. One of the things, we want to do is, reduce the friction, reduce the emotional level of getting a divorce so that this whole thing stays on track. Right? Yeah. I think one of the things that we want to talk about and address too is that, we are attached to the outcome of the process, and whether or not, something is agreed to or negotiated on, our thing is to make sure that everybody feels heard, that everybody is understood where we're supposed to go, and that we all come to a common ground to make sure that the property's sold.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say with all of our clients that I can think of, just like the recent ones, I think they've been very happy with the communication.
Absolutely, they all have said that.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, I'm so happy that we went with you guys because you guys have actually communicated everything to us, every single step that has happened, and to both parties, not just one. They had nothing but good things to say about that.
Right, and I think you want to consider that when you're selling your property.
Yeah.
Because that truly can get lost a lot of times. If the communication is only to, let's say, the person who's living in the house, but the person who is out of the house isn't understanding what's going on at all.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that all stays on track.
I mean, I think that in any case, the number one question that people always ask is like, how do you guys communicate in this? And I think that's what we're trying to touch on, that we keep an open communication with all parties.
Yeah. And we are really, we're non-emotional.
Right.
The divorce is happening to you guys, which is unfortunate, but at the same time, we're coming together all as a group to say, okay, let's get this through the process to sell it so that you can move on with your life.
At the end, it's for their benefit.
It is
because
for their
once
benefit.
they sell this property, everybody gets their proceeds and everybody's able to move on to the next chapter of their life.
Right, and now one thing I wanted to bring up, and we've had this in a couple scenarios where we've had couples who have a car loan or they have credit cards or whatever. At the closing table, we can make sure that all of those things are divided up.
Yeah.
So once the house is, divided up and there's some proceeds left, we can say, okay, we have this agreement, the car gets paid off, the credit card gets paid off, whatever, and when you actually leave, your financials might be completely over with that person. And
we had that with one couple in Centerville? Was it Centerville? Yeah, they paid off their credit cards that they had together, and by the time they sold the house, that was it.
That was it.
That was the last asset that they had together.
That was, and so then they were able to then move on, because there's no more negotiation.
Right.
And we want to make sure that if that's something that you need, or that's something that would help with this process, we can help you do that.
Yeah.
Right?
And we like to be transparent, and we want you to be transparent with us too, right? Because that's the only way we can help. For them to tell us exactly what they need us to do.
That's right.
What are they want at the end of the day?
Right. Yeah, and that means, sometimes sharing some, information. It all stays confidential between us, right?
Yep.
And, really what we want to do is not add to the stress of the divorce, but to just make sure that we're in each of your corners, making sure that this gets done on a timely manner.
Yep.
And that everything is divided out the way it is stated that it's supposed to be, and you can all move on.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a hard thing to talk about as we're talking about. I'm kind of thinking about my couples, and I'm wishing all of them well, of course, because they've made the decision. But we hope that we aided in some of the, the transaction piece, and really took some of the emotion and the stressors out, so that they
the heartache.
the heartache, and they could sort of see like a new life for themselves now.
Right.
Right. So So if anybody is going through a separation or a divorce, it's really important that you interview that agent, because they're going to be there through this whole process with you. Your, whatever's going on with your agreement or the attorneys to file divorce and all of those things are still going to be going on in the background. But, get some help with someone who specializes. And I would say we now specialize in divorcing couples. We've had enough that we feel really strongly that we can help. We can help you sell your house.
Absolutely.
Well, good. Well, this was another great podcast. I'm really happy we touched on this one.
And if anybody has any other specific question about the process, feel free to reach out to us. Send us a message. Send us an email. We're here to help however way we can.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, good. Well,
all right. Thank you so much.
Another good podcast.
Yeah.
All right. See
Next
you
time.
Bye.
Bye.